Yasunori Murakami, who pitched for the Giants.
The 2-1 pitch. Swung on, come on, back up the middle. It'll be a 3-0 to Matsui. The pitch swung on, hit in the air to deep center. The air back, way back in deep center. It is gone! Godzilla! A thriller by Godzilla!
Puts down Raul Lavagna instead. Eric Chavez down on strikes. Finally, the red-hot Derek Jeter.
Runner goes on strike 3. He strikes out the side.
10 strikeouts on the night.
Center field. Going back on his ever. At the wall.
Gone! Big fly, Ohtani-san!
Hello, my name is Chris Carpenter, and I am a freshman at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. This video is for the World Ethnography Book Project, for a class I am taking, The Anthropology of Sports and Leisure. The book I am reviewing is The Meaning of Ichiro, The New Way from Japan and the Transformation of Our National Pastime, by Robert Whiting. Here is a copy of it. So this is actually Whiting's third book on Japanese baseball after the Chrysanthemum in the Bat, Baseball Samurai Style, and You Gotta Have Wa, which I actually have a copy of here, but I have not gotten around to reading it yet. So both of those books and his other one focus on larger American-Japanese issues and differences by highlighting baseball. Whiting also has a lot of experience with living in Japan. He's lived there for many years, so he kind of understands the culture, and so he's actually a good source on like the differences between the two different cultures. For background of me, I grew up playing baseball until around 8th grade, and then our high school did not have a team, so I kind of stopped around then. But I've always watched a lot of sports, so I feel like I have a pretty decent background for reading this book because I kind of understand baseball and it's not like completely foreign to me. So then during the summer when sports were postponed, in baseball, could not figure out how to play due to the players and owners not agreeing, which is a topic that will come up later. They're unionizing. Occasionally I'd wake up at like 4:30 a.m. to watch Korean baseball. And Korean baseball, obviously it's not Japanese baseball, but being from that part of the world, Asia, they still share some of the same basic characteristics, such as play style and the strategy that they employ. So the main question that The Meaning of Ichiro is asking is what makes Japanese players different from American players. So the book addresses the difference between Japanese and American societies through the lens of baseball, as I said previously. For some basic overview, Japan is usually more group focused, while America is focused on the individuals. Japan's practice schedule is usually near constant, and they have a grueling preseason and postseason camps. And Japan uses baseball to build character, while Americans are more playing it for like fun and have something to do. The book also talks about the challenges Japanese players have getting acclimated to American culture, but this also works both ways with American players. Sometimes they immigrate to Japan to play and stuff, so it kind of works both ways. For a summary of the chapters, chapter 1 is about Ichiro's upbringing. So at the time of the book's publication in 2004, Ichiro was like the biggest Japanese star, which is also why the book is named after him. That year, he actually would set the MLB record for hits in a season with 262. So the book kind of talks about Ichiro did not get there where he was through just like luck. He took a lot of hours practicing with his father, who was a major influence in his life. And pretty much he has kind of like a weird batting form, so he goes through years of that, like to perfect it through like high school baseball, and then he goes to the Japanese Professional League, and then he slowly works his way up, and he eventually wins 3 MVPs and 7 straight batting titles in the Japanese League before he signs with the Seattle Mariners for the 2001 season. Okay, so chapter 2 is about Ichiro in America. So he adjusts very quickly to the American game and becomes kind of like a hitting machine. So his first year there, 2001, the Mariners actually won 116 games, and Ichiro wins MVP and Rookie of the Year, but the Mariners lose in the American League Championship Series to the Yankees. He also wins a lot of support from fans with this playstyle reminding people of the older style of hitting the ball where the defenders are not, instead of going for home runs, which is what was happening then with like Barry Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa kind of hitting like 60 home runs in like the steroid era. So Ichiro becomes like a huge star in Japan, which is something because he didn't play on the premier Japanese baseball team, he kind of played on one of the other ones, so he never really got to the superstar status that he would get in Japan because of his exploits in America. So then chapter 3 kind of goes back in time and starts with the history of baseball in Japan. So the game is used in Japan to emphasize some Japanese qualities such as constant training and team harmony, and then it's part of their national pride and is seen as building character. And the professional league is set up in 1936, and it's usually dominated by the Tokyo Giants. So chapter 4 is about the first Japanese player in the MLB, which happens completely by accident, and that is Masanori Murakami, who plays for the San Francisco Giants farm team, and he is eventually promoted to the majors, where he just somehow dominates. So his time then is split between the US and Japan, and he actually only stays in the US for 2 seasons, 1964 and 1965, before he returns to Japan. There's also a lot of contract disputes, and eventually though free agency is introduced in Japan, which their league did not have before. The player unions in Japan and America serve completely different roles, as Japan's is just simply less important. America's, on the other hand, has the ability to strike and hold play, like they've done multiple times, specifically like 1981 and then 1994. So here's the excerpt about player unions. At no time in the union's existence was there even an attempt by its leaders to wrest control of the rights to the players' names and their likenesses from the ball clubs, who had held such rights since the game's inception. If a company wanted to use a ball player in a TV or print media advertisement, it had to first negotiate with the club he played for. The club then decided yes or no, and if the answer was yes, took a sizable 20% commission off the top. Said one NBP official preferred to remain anonymous. In the US, the players effectively took over control of their game, but I think it will be a long time before we ever see anything like that in Japan. It takes a lot of courage to change the system, and there's something that's generally lacking in ball players here. The players don't understand the system. They don't even try. All they want to think about is playing ball. So chapter 5 is about Hideo Nomo, who is the first player to actively move to the US and purposely leave Japan. So he has a corkscrew style of throwing, which you saw at the beginning of the video. He always dreams of going to the MLB, and eventually he finds a loophole by voluntarily retiring. So he's not allowed to sign with any other Japanese team, but he is allowed to sign with an American team. So he signs with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he wins the Rookie of the Year award in 1995. He's usually seen as bringing a lot of fun back to baseball after the 1994 strike, and Nomo Mania overtakes Southern California with increased attendance at the games when he is pitching, and there's just more Asian fans in attendance at those games. Chapter 6 is about a variety of things. It's also about Don Manura, who breaks up the WA, for group harmony, of Japanese baseball. For this, he's kind of seen as like a villain figure. So Manura becomes an agent for Hideki Irubu, who signs with the New York Yankees. Another player involved is Alfonso Soriano, who's actually from the Dominican Republic, but he plays for like a Japanese farm team, and then eventually plays in Japan. So he also voluntarily retires, similar to Nomo, and he signs with the Yankees. So this leads to a new clause with the posting system, which I believe is what they still have today. So this is just an excerpt from the book on page 145, maybe to 6, describing the posting system. So under the provisions of this agreement, Japanese clubs would post the names of players whom they were willing to make available, assuming of course the players involved were amendable, during the off-season period from November 1st to March 2nd. Within 4 days of posting, any interested big league team would be permitted to submit a bid to the U.S. Major League Commissioner. The bid would be the amount to be paid to the Japanese club if the Major League team did in fact wind up signing the player they had bid for. The MLB Commissioner would then determine the highest bidder from our participating clubs wishing to acquire the services of said player, and that lucky franchise would have 30 days to attempt to sign him. In the event the Japanese club found the bid figure unacceptable, which it fully had the authority to do, or the US club, for some reason, failed to sign the player in question after reaching agreement with his team by, say, not offering enough money, the player's name would be removed from the available list, and he would not be eligible to be posted again until the following November 1st, meaning that the player would then have to play at least another season in Japan. The posting system was obviously designed to benefit the Japanese team owners. It allowed them to maintain the integrity of their game for the time being, to control the flow of players to the US, and was thus in keeping with the long tradition of the professional game in Japan, whereby the front office wielded power over their players like feudal lords over their vassals. That the system would not be very beneficial to the players went without saying. The US team that wanted to sign a Japanese player had to pay for him twice. Once to the team that owned the player's contract, and once to the player, an expensive restriction. Many American observers think the posting deal is a violation of a US antitrust law and an infringement of human rights, because the system prohibits the player from cutting the best deal possible for himself. So Chapter 7 is about the flow of players from America to Japan. Most of these players are from the US, and each Japanese team is only allowed to sign 4 foreigners to their squad. So Japan has a lot of xenophobia, and they usually do not allow foreign players to break sacred records, such as O's single season home run record. American players also have to adjust to the Japanese same work ethic and their constant practice schedule, and that's difficult for some of them, and they fail. So Chapter 8 is about Bobby Valentine. He was an American manager in Japan in the 90s, trying to turn the Lotte Mariners into a winner. He installs a different practice style, and they actually finish in second place. Most of the credit, though, is given to his Japanese assistant coaches instead of Valentine. Valentine is eventually fired for not following his Japanese method of building character, and eventually he actually finds a managing career with the New York Mets. So I guess it all works out in the end. Chapter 9 highlights a lot of the other players who have made the trek across the Pacific. These include Tsuyotoshi Hasegawa, who proves that Japanese players do not have to be superstars to go to the MLB. Masato Yoshi, who becomes a reliable starting pitcher. Katsuhiro Sasaki, who becomes a premier closer for the Mariners, and he actually has 45 saves in 2001, among a host of other players. Chapter 10 is about Hideki Matsui, who is one of the first power hitters to go to the MLB from Japan. He's also seen as like the poster boy for Japan because of his hard work ethic. So after it takes a while for him to adjust to the MLB pitching, he becomes the first Japanese player to hit a home run in the World Series, which is the 2003 World Series, when he played with the New York Yankees. The epilogue deals with both the positives and negatives of Japanese players immigrating to the MLB. The door has been opened to a wide variety of players, and they still face a lot of challenges with the different customs and travel. So the question is whether Japanese baseball is suffering from the MLB, but it is not really due to the low number of players that actually move from Japan to America. Both leagues have a lot to learn from each other, as teams will try to find a competitive advantage to win games. So on to more of my review of the book. So one of the problems I found with the book was just at its age. It was actually only published 16 years ago in 2004, but in the world of sports, that is a lot that can happen. So many more Japanese players have moved across the Pacific to America, including Yu Darvish, Koichi Hirahari, Tatsuki Matsukiya, and Masahiro Tanaka, and Shohei Ohtani. A lot of these players come along with a lot of hype because they sign large contracts and they rise from relative obscurity in the US to become famous athletes. So they always have really, really lofty expectations, and some of them just fail to live up to them, even if they can be solid players. So going through these guys, Yu Darvish had a lot of hype in his first 3 years when he played with the Texas Rangers, starting in 2012. He was an All-Star all 3 years and had his best season in 2013 when he finished second in the Cy Young voting. After bouncing around to the Dodgers and now Cubs, he actually had a bounce back 2020 season, and I believe he finished second in the Cy Young voting, which is really good. Koji Uehara came to the U.S. as a relief pitcher in 2009, and he actually made the AL All-Star team in 2013, and overall was just pretty effective. Tatsuki Matsuzuka signed a large deal with the Red Sox. The Red Sox played a negotiating fee of $51 million and then a $52 million contract over 6 years. So he was lights out his first 2 seasons, 2007 and 2008. But then he also lost his control. He had some injuries. And just after coming back from those, he was just not as effective. Shohei Ohtani, being the most recent one, is the one that is on top of my head. So he had a lot of hype coming over due to his ability to both pitch and hit well in Japan. So he could be like a two-way player, which is something that you usually don't see in the MLB. So he's been both a starting pitcher and a DH for the Angels. And most pitchers are like poor hitters by MLB standards, but he's actually pretty good. So he did win the Rookie of the Year award in 2018, but his career has also been really hampered by injuries. So he hasn't been able to pitch as much and just play as many games as you would like him to. As for some of the players mentioned in the book, Ichiro amassed over 5,000 hits between the U.S. and Japan, and he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer following a lengthy career with his retirement in, I believe, March of 2019 after the Mariners' 2 opening games in Japan. Matsuki won MVP of the 2009 World Series, in which the Yankees defeated the Phillies in 6 games. Tomo Aka had a decent career as a starting pitcher, but he bounced around from team to team. Katsuri Zaki returned to Japan for the 2004 season, having been a pretty brief but a really effective career with the Mariners. Hasegawa had an effective career at the Angels and Mariners as a relief pitcher before he retired in 2005. It also works the other way with MLB players going to Japan and then coming back. So one example of this is Eric Thames, who didn't go to Japan, but he went to Korea to revitalize his career. So after spending 3 seasons there, he returned to the MLB with the Milwaukee Brewers, and he was actually pretty much on fire for all of April 2017. And since then, he's been kind of a decent role player. Another complaint I have with this book is that it's not in strict chronological order. It's organized more by like themes and like teams and persons. It's like sort of in chronological order, but not really. So the book exclusively focuses on the late 80s to early 2000s in Japanese baseball, which is an interesting time period, but there's a lot more to Japanese baseball. Maybe better from turning the chapters into years and having multiple plot threads running through the book. Overall though, I really enjoyed this book. It was a really good starting point for research into the differences between American and Japanese baseball. So I'd also be interested in reading the other books on foreign baseball, whether those be by Robert Whiting on Japan or books on, say, Latin American baseball, where a lot of players are from. There's also some books I'd like to read, like the biography on either like Nomo or Ichiro, that I think would be really interesting. I would recommend this book to others, as it is easy to understand and it covers a lot of the main characters and actually does a pretty good job with it. I feel like someone with a background in baseball will enjoy this book more than someone who does not. It's like if you have, say, like watched Ichiro play or Nomo play, you can probably get more out of the book than somebody who just like has never heard of them before. I also want to thank everyone for watching. This was actually a really fun class and a really fun book to read. So thanks once again, and bye.